Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all, and yes, we are on the same set, and yes, this is being shot straight after Continental Club. We are moving studios. We're now down in the basement, where Pato loves it. Got all his whips and chains in the cupboard, and his BDSM nonsense.
Mate, I don't feel ashamed about my preferences.
You shouldn't. But anyway, we apologise for not being in the pub, but we are moving to like a brand new shiny set, so please bear with us in the meantime. But anyway, you guys have been sending in your questions all week. The first one comes from Miles Crozier 4, who says, who has had the most successful and the least successful transfer window in the Premier League? Now, we spoke about the continental teams on Continental Club, so let's stick to England.
Okay.
Hamster, where are you going first, and who?
I think it's hard to avoid Chelsea.
Yes.
The Blues.
In the conversation about best and worst. Because there was a very clearly a point where Antonio Conte lost his head, was pursuing the likes of Ashley Barnes, if rumours are to be believed. I think they did, in fact, lodge a bid prior to Carroll's injury for him for £29 million.
Worth.
And they've ended up with Olivier Giroud.
The best of the options.
For a very modest price of €18 million. And considering he's a very consistent goal scorer, I think the fourth highest scorer at Arsenal in Arsene Wenger's stewardship over the club. I think they've got themselves somewhat of a bargain, albeit he is 31. He's going to be taking far less wages than Dzeko was probably demanding. I think Edin Dzeko as well wanted assurances over his first team involvement, where Olivier Giroud is probably happy to rotate with the likes of Morata. Batshuayi's obviously gone now, and Antonio Conte has been fiending for a traditional target man, hasn't he? And he fits the bill and then some, because he's a technically good player. Worst. Are we answering that question now, or just best?
Let's bob along best first.
Okay.
Come back to worst.
I also think Celtic got outstanding business out of Chelsea for Charlie Masonda. I mean, he was starting to break into the team, wasn't he? Starting to display a bit of form. Chelsea fans were absolutely seething on Twitter.
Stinking.
They'd let him go. Apparently, we're paying £5 million for the pleasure of having him for 18 months, although I believe that's been bloated somewhat.
Yeah, because, I don't believe that.
I mean, we hammered out an £8 million bid, an £8 million fee, for Patrick Roberts last summer with Manchester City, and he had an unbelievable last 12 months at Celtic. But just the match against Bournemouth compounded some of their recent transfer woes, didn't it? 100%. Nathan Ake scored. Why are they letting him go and buying Rudiger? Christensen goes off, who's just come off the back of 2 good loan seasons in the Bundesliga, and all of a sudden their defence falls apart. Doesn't bring David Luiz on. Why is he still at the club?
Yeah, I have no idea.
But so you can't avoid Chelsea in this conversation. But I've done speaking. What about you, boys?
Yeah, I think that's a really good pick, to be honest. They've spent 52 mil, and they've got 2 top class additions in Giroud and Emerson, and one kind of medium level gamble. But 15 mil is not that bad a gamble. If
Emerson's a little bit of a gamble as well, right? Because he made 24 appearances last season for Roma, but was very hotly pursued. Is that a thing? Before that, I think Juventus were interested, weren't they?
Yeah, well, he was out kind of May to December, I think, with that knee injury. So yeah, he is a risk from that point of view. But talent-wise, as good as you could get in that position, and given that he's going to be a backup for a while, they've got a little bit of leeway to let him develop.
As a Gooner, what did you think of the Chelsea fee for Giroud? Was it 15, 16 mil?
I thought it was a good price. I think, when a player's that age, Arsenal need to clear people off the wage bill so that they can rejig the squad this summer. So I didn't have too much of an issue with it from there. The only thing is, I think that Aubameyang and Mkhitaryan, because of their ages, are relatively short-term signings. And it's almost like you're going in really hard, hoping that you can win the Europa League this season and get back into the Champions League. But if you're going to do that, then letting Giroud go arguably doesn't make sense, because you're an injury away from playing Eddie Nketiah up front in the latter stages of the Europa League. But I'd like to talk about United, really. I think United have got a shout for best business. In a related way to Arsenal, obviously. They wanted to get rid of Mkhitaryan. They wanted Alexis Sanchez. And they've managed to do both.
100% agree.
So that's pretty impressive. I mean, they haven't got any younger. They've got better temporarily. I do think that Sanchez will not age as well as Mkhitaryan, but his stats now are impossible to argue with. He's creating 3 chances a game. That's more than any United player this season. The next best was Mkhitaryan on 2.7. The next best after that, Mata on 2.2. He's taking more shots than any Man United player as well. I do think he's going to slow down. I think that if I were United, I think we're going to get a year and a half out of this guy, maybe 2 years, and then we should probably sell him.
I don't necessarily mind that. I think that United are probably one of maybe 2 or 3 clubs in world football that can stomach that wage bill fairly comfortably for a year and a half, 2 years, and then not worry too much. We've done it with Zlatan Ibrahimovic this season for an entire 12 months, and I think he is still, maybe alongside Sanchez, the best paid player at the club.
Well, you could also arguably subtract Mkhitaryan's wages from the huge wages you're paying Alexis Sanchez, because you've got those off the books.
You think, United.
Well, we were paying him like 180 or whatever, and paying Alexis 350. So actually, it's not that bad. But
they also locked Mata down to a long-term deal, locked Jose Mourinho down to a long-term deal.
Mata, I think, will age pretty well as well. But the thing with Alexis is, if he did end up seeing out that contract, I don't care how rich Man United are, that is a problem. 4.5 years, he'll be knocking on the door of 34 by the end of it. And the thing is, we're already hearing rumours that Paul Pogba is demanding wage parity with Alexis in his new contract. That's where the problem's going to come for United.
Yeah, I don't know how much truth there is in that, though. I'm fairly sceptical about the whole wage reporting, because when the actual transfer happened, the price was doubling by the second. The Mirror were going 450, then the Sun were at 600,000, and somebody else was at 650. It was like a poker game, so I'm not too sure what his actual wage is. I'm pretty sure it won't actually be above 400,000. I actually think kind of the reverse. I think Arsenal had a fantastic window. I know that the sale of Giroud, the one problem I had with Arsenal's window was selling to rivals. I think Oxlade-Chamberlain to Liverpool, Sanchez to United, and Chelsea getting Giroud. That is poor business. You just do not sell to your rivals. But they were under the gun because of contract situations, I think. And they made the very best out of a terrible situation.
Yeah, I think everything that was wrong with this window was actually stuff that was wrong with the summer window.
100%.
Yeah, so it comes to a head, right?
Yeah, stupidity in the summer is costing us now.
But equally, in such a bad situation, to shift Sanchez out and bring in Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang for around what Sanchez was demanding in terms of wage price, and for a combined fee of £55 million with the loss of Sanchez, I think that's great business. I don't know how they fit in the team quite yet, but that's a good problem for Arsene Wenger to have, right?
Sure.
I'm pretty sure he would have also wanted a centre half, so that is maybe a little bit of a negative.
Well, we got in a youngster who he's decided to keep instead of sending out on loan.
But equally, I think there were late moves made for Johnny Evans and Manolas at Roma, so clearly he wanted someone, didn't quite get them over the line. But then the best news of the whole window, Mesut Ozil 3-year deal. What a fantastic signing, well worth for $350,000 a week, I think.
I also think that signifies another year for Arsene Wenger. I know we discussed this very briefly on transfer review, but one bit of business I thought was outstanding was Lucas Moura to Spurs, but only £25 million. Considering he had one of the most productive seasons of his career last year in a very strong side, I think he got 11 goals in the league, around 20 in all competitions. He actually made more starts than Angel Di Maria did for PSG in Ligue 1 last season. That went a little bit under the radar. He adds something that Spurs don't necessarily have, a bit of pace in attack, because for all Harry Kane's good qualities, he's not that explosive sort of player, is he?
They don't have many explosive players. They've tried it.
They can punish teams on the counter-attack. And that's just what I was about to say. Took the words out of my mouth. A huge upgrade on the wingers they've been buying recently from Ligue 1, because they kind of shop in that grey area, don't they, where they might bang for a certain price,
or they might flop.
But they don't necessarily guarantee.
We should call it the Ben Arthur zone.
Yeah, they don't necessarily guarantee a positive impact on the first team. Should we move on to worst then? What do you boys think about worst?
Swansea.
Yeah, it's hard to look beyond them, although 3 wins in his first 5 for Carvajal and some banging analogies to go along with it.
Yeah, I really like him as a manager. There's also an argument to be made for Bournemouth, although Bournemouth, obviously a fantastic result away at Stamford Bridge, but I think to bring in nobody is a big risk. Also, huge problems at Southampton right now. Southampton are a major relegation candidate, in my opinion.
Currently 17th.
Yeah, I think as well the sign of Carrillo is a huge risk. I think to sign a 26-year-old from Monaco, not necessarily a proven goal scorer in Europe, I think that's such a risk when that side is desperate for goals.
And it's not like they're creating a load of chances and just failing to finish them. Like, they're not creating a lot of chances. I think they could have gone and spent that money on someone like Jonathan Vieira from Las Palmas, and then they would have actually had resale value. Whereas if Carrillo doesn't bang, then who's going to be like, let's go and buy this guy off Southampton who didn't.
And Pellegrino at the moment.
At Monaco.
You might be trying to think Vieira's agent.
I think
you've been trying to move
so
that kid for a year now.
If anybody wants a creative move, it's because Las Palmas are one of the few teams who have an elite creator. And the club is smaller than all the clubs who want him.
Out of mind. He's on an island somewhere.
Yeah, Newcastle should have gone. And maybe he just likes staying there. Maybe that's what it is. People are going in. Swansea definitely went in the summer, and he was like, "Oh my god, no! Like, why would I?"
Roque Mace has just gone to Sevilla, so I think I'll stay.
There's another team that I'm not convinced about their window. Newcastle. I think Kennedy could be a good bit of business, but my word, did they need a striker? And I think Hosselu. I just don't see it with Hosselu.
They've got Slimani. They've got Slimani.
Oh, of course. I actually completely forgot they bought Slimani in.
Yeah.
So that has actually potentially rescued that window.
Who's not good.
He's alright.
But he's a much better option than Hosselu and Dwight Gale.
Yeah, I do agree with that. He can at least score with his head, whereas Hosselu can score with no parts of his body.
Yeah, he can contribute to all-round play as well. When I say not good, I mean in the context of getting you the goals needed to guarantee survival, because he's not been prolific since he came to England. I think he's only got around 5 goals in the league for Leicester, fared a little bit better in the Cups, but he's just largely unconvincing, a little bit lost, but as has, Kelechi and Nacho at Leicester, because they have a very sort of set system, don't they, with Okazaki playing off Vardy. Vardy's never injured.
Although I would say when Claude Puel mixed up the formation at Everton away when they were 2-0 down, brought Kelechi Iheanacho on, Christian Fuchs on, I think they looked far better than when they started the game.
Yeah, Iheanacho has been great in the cup games he's played as well. I still think. Iheanacho
really weak opposition, right? Fleetwood and Peterborough.
True, but Iheanacho I think is he's a lot more talented than the other forwards they have. I would be looking at kind of trying to get him into the team as much as possible. He's really good in that sort of game when you've got a team penned in and you need somebody around the box who's that hybrid striker, attacking midfielder. And especially, he could be helpful to take some of the creative burden off of Riyad Mahrez, who knows what his mindset is.
What do you think
9 goals in his last 20,
What do you think about Riyad Mahrez? Obviously still not reported back to training. He's losing £100,000 every time.
That seems like good business, right? That Leicester kept hold of Riyad Mahrez. But if they then don't get the money and they don't get performances out of him for the rest of the season, have they won?
I think they did the right thing to keep hold of him. They're pursuing Europa League football, aren't they? Currently battling out with Everton. I think before the game they were about 6 points ahead of Everton. But they weren't going to get another player of that calibre in. If they let him go for the foreseeable future, that is. And £60 million is nothing to Leicester's owners who are billionaires, and they spent 30 on Slimani.
That's only the case if you get a Mahrez that is actually even 60%.
Yeah, but he's done this before, and Leicester have sort of gave him an improved contract and sort of reined it in a little bit, fended off advances from Roma. Ultimately, if he wants to play football and if he wants to be regarded as a professional by people who may come in for him in the summer, then he will just, do his job, put his dummy back in. But as I said before, 9 goals and 20. I think he only got 3 in 30. His previous 34 before that. He's in incredible form, and Leicester would be struggling without his contribution. Although Vardy has 11 goals, but voice broke. What do you think then? Any more shouts for worst?
I don't think there's too many other shouts. I actually think Everton had potentially a good window, potentially a terrible window, depending on the signing of Tosin. Does Tosin bang? Not too sure, but I think the signing of Walcott was a really good move.
And
Mongala as well. Ashley Williams and Jagielka need
and he tends to get those moves right, doesn't he? For not underappreciated defenders, but he did it with is it Sissoko?
Yeah,
at Crystal Palace, and he was player of the season with Palace when he came in January. I think those sort of defenders want to play in an Allardyce system.
Also,
physical defenders.
Just touching on another team, Liverpool. I think Liverpool's business of bringing in Van Dijk was desperately needed. I think that was a very good signing. I think the sale of Coutinho, timing-wise, was awful. I think they should have kept Coutinho until the summer. I think Barcelona would have still been interested in the summer. I think they were still keen, but I think his sale puts their top 4 aspirations into serious repute. I'm not convinced they'll make top 4 without PC in the side, especially with Arsenal signing out Aubameyang and Mkhitaryan.
Maybe they're worried about this bubble bursting though. I mean, I don't think we've seen transfer fees go up and up and up for the last few years, but I don't think that will continue forever. I think that Neymar's transfer has temporarily inflated the market.
You wait for Madrid to smash 200 million on.
No, I'm sure they will spend a lot in the summer. But I can kind of. But if they come in and they offer 140 million for Coutinho,
no.
yeah, he's not worth that.
Although that deal is apparently split 24 million pounds over the next 5 years.
Yeah, but a lot of deals are like that for involve big transfer fees. I actually don't think it was the worst. I think
could have bought in a goalkeeper.
If Liverpool, unbelievable against Manchester City, and then go and lose to who was it the week after?
Swansea, mate.
Swansea. This inconsistency has been. It's almost becoming a hallmark of Jurgen Klopp's reign there.
Yeah.
It was a very similar criticism that was levelled at Brendan Rodgers, and obviously it's well documented. They have very similar points per game totals. I think Brendan Rodgers about 1.8. I think Klopp's just over 2 at the moment, having played 30 less games than Rodgers. But so they were the sort of output was similar with Coutinho and without him. I don't think he scored over 6 goals in a season either. Don't get me wrong. I think he's an absolute magician. But if Lallana comes back in, displays good form in the front three, get firing again, and they stop losing to teams that just camp in their own box, then that life will go on without him.
I think that's pretty much it though for the league. Unless you guys at home have got any suggestions, who do you think had a good window? Who do you think had a bad window? Why not let us know on Twitter? Get us on these 3 handles. Our next question comes from Blues Brigades, and they say, should Antonio Conte be sacked after the 3-0 hammering by Bournemouth? Oof. It's contentious.
Their form has been bush, hasn't it, Patter?
It's been dreadful. I mean, in their last 9 games, they've won 2, lost 2, drawn 5.
But what's happened?
This is the thing. I mean,
because there's all about Jose Mourinho getting in his head, and it's utter nonsense, isn't it? It's nonsense.
You've been peddling it, mate.
I haven't been peddling it at all, mate.
Oh, bring up his tweets
from the past.
Go on, find a tweet from me. Find a tweet from me.
Oh God. I mean, this is one of the things, isn't it? Like, I've never really understood this idea that, like, if you get in a manager's head, then as a result, his players will play badly. Like, that doesn't quite compute with me. But I don't know. I think he's on his way out in the summer. I mean, he was so pissed off with the transfer business, and to be honest, it wasn't spectacular in the summer window. But he was so pissed off with it that he kicked up such a fuss. Michael Emenalo left, and somebody else left for Celtic as well, I think.
But he wanted Morata, didn't he?
Oh no, Morata's fine. I don't have an issue with Morata. But Bakayoko, I still think Bakayoko's pretty good, but he hasn't really banged. Rudiger, I didn't really like. Zappacosta, mediocre. And when you look at the people he wanted instead, then you sort of think, wow, they wanted Nainggolan, they wanted Alex Sandro. Those are slam dunks, and these guys aren't.
I actually think in certain respects he's only got himself to blame. The handling of the Diego Costa situation that put the dressing room at unease was an absolute disaster, and that was his fault.
And David Luiz as well.
Yeah, for sending an individual text to Diego Costa telling him he wants him out of the club.
Nobody else to blame. Bloke, though, isn't he?
I know, but he came into the season, didn't he, saying, "Oh, we'll definitely avoid the second season Mourinho syndrome."
I mean, that's
and it's literally hit him like a sledgehammer.
Yeah, calm. He's a bitch. But I think you reminded me before we shot this that he still has the best win ratio of any Chelsea manager at current, with around 69%, which is absolutely obscene.
Where would they turn as well?
His results have fallen off a cliff lately, haven't they? And I think the manner of the defeat to Bournemouth has certainly led people to sort of start sharpening said knives. But
he's not going to get sacked though, is he? I think we're all in agreement.
I think he'll resign.
I would imagine so. Is Gus Hiddink available? Is he going to come back in for another 6 months?
It's a mutual agreement departure. That's what it's got all over it in the summer.
But he behaved this way at Barry, didn't he, when he didn't get his way with transfers?
And at
Juventus. So it looks to be a recurrent pattern.
Yeah. I just don't see who the options are if he goes though. Like, I mean, there's talk about Luis Enrique. There's obviously talk about Simeone, because that makes the most sense.
Every season though, Simeone.
And then there's talk about Allegri, and you look at all of those, and I think, okay, Simeone's a really good manager, but do I think any one of these is genuinely a better coach than Antonio Conte? I'm not really sure I do.
And I have to say, it is now such a pattern that you've almost got to say it's not the manager. We've seen it with Ancelotti doing well, they're sacked. Mourinho doing well, they're sacked. Conte doing well, they're sacked. And it always happens that halfway through a season, shit hits the fan and the board chuck them under the bus effectively. Yeah. There doesn't seem to be any long-term strategy at the club.
But they've also won 5 Premier Leagues.
But they're almost like they're like Watford on coke.
10 years.
Yeah, they're literally like Watford on coke. If they've got a system
drugs,
working, don't do kids.
Don't do kids.
Definitely don't do kids. But they've almost got a system where it's working better to just keep rotating managers and keep winning the odd trophy.
Yeah, but the thing about Pozzo is at Watford, apparently they're sort of very hands-on with the way the club, but the club should be run. But do you think that he has a philosophy for the managers that he wants them to follow?
No.
I think he is primarily results-driven.
He just wants to win the Champions League over and over. His end goal consistently is the Champions League
His end goal is at least 5 minutes of airtime on that terrace at Stamford Bridge every Saturday.
clapping like that. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Where are his glasses?
There are some other terribly run clubs, so we can't just look at Chelsea. I mean,
they're not terribly run, Chelsea.
No, Chelsea had actually run quite well, except recently, and in the January window.
They hoard talent, made a fortune off of them.
Yeah, you're probably right. They actually run really well, so I don't really know.
But that was Michael Emenalo who did that, and he's gone now. But I mean, it does help when there's at least one other club in London which is worse run. In fact, I'd say there are multiple other clubs in London.
Let's just quickly touch on West Ham then, and the chaos that is
the worst thing to come out of a club in the modern era. I'm saying it.
If
you agree, vote in the poll just above. But basically, lay it out for me because you've got the notes. So I don't want to get anything wrong because it's
the Daily Mail alleged that Tony Henry, who is the head of player recruitment at West Ham, sent some pretty he has since been suspended. Sent some pretty damning emails saying that the club want to limit the number of African players in the squad because they all have a bad attitude and all cause mayhem.
He didn't say they all do that. He said they often do that, and he said except for Cheku Kouyaté, who's a good lad. He's a good boy. In fact, he said.
But these are alleged quotes as well. Just please don't sue us because we haven't got enough money to even afford a studio.
And again, that actually relates well back to Chelsea, who have had some of the best African players of all time and subsequently been hugely successful.
I mean, Didier Drogba's actually wasn't too bad.
West Ham just buy bad, regardless of who they buy. That's fundamentally the problem, isn't it?
He's blamed his own failings on a culture and a race.
It's
and then he said that it wasn't racist. Like somebody said in one of the replies to the email, they said that's a bit racist. Like that's textbook racism. And he said, is it? How so? Because you've literally said African people all have this quality which I hate. That's mental.
Yeah. Inherent quality amongst 1 billion people.
Yeah, I don't like their skin. Is that racist? You can't say anything these days. PC gone mad.
Did he not go to the email and just did Malky Mackay's head not just appear, as a vision in front of him, just like, don't do this. This is probably a bad idea. Like, if you're gonna have that opinion, keep it to your self, mate. Don't put it down.
It didn't
immortalise it over email.
It didn't, because the whole club is so badly run that nobody thinks about anything. David Gold and David Sullivan are just chucking at the wall and seeing what sticks. The signing of Hugill, is that Hugill?
Oh, so we're moving on to transfer business.
Yeah, sorry, we've gone from racism to transfer business.
Fair enough. I think we've covered that.
But I mean, the signing is it Jordan Hugill?
Yeah, something like that.
From League One for £8 million, when the striker has never scored, I think, more than 15 goals in a league season.
Got 4 and 8 this year,
He's 25 years old. Where does he fit in the team? Given that they've already got Javier Hernandez and Andy Carroll, seems like an odd one. The signing of João Mario is another. Yeah. Oh, he's a big name. Decent player on FIFA.
Not many clubs would be able to get the money back they paid for someone like Andre Ayew, and then proceed to that up by spending half of it
on Hugill
on a League One player.
And then probably the rest on João Mario's wage.
Should have just gone, I think Stephen Fletcher's going on a free. They should have signed him up.
They should just sell the whole club. Like, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, getting your money back for Andre Ayew is really, really good. It's the same money that Arsenal got for Giroud, but they've kind of been bailed out by the stupidity of Swansea there, and then they just don't. I don't know. Whenever they get a good player, I struggle to give them credit for it. Like Masuaku or whatever, or Lanzini, I think. I can't give you credit for this because I feel like you just sort of like stumbled into this accidentally.
Because they've got, for every one successful signing, they've got 30 failures in the ranks that's still there, rotting on a massive wage and aging.
It just seems like permanent short-termism, doesn't it? They are just bumble to the next transfer.
Badly run club.
Only West Ham could basically have the whole of East London and get given a big stadium and get worse. Like, only West Ham could do that. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it is absolutely insane. But what do you guys at home think, firstly, of the Antonio Conte sacking? Should he stay or should he go? And of this whole West Ham racism nonsense? Let us know in the comments down there. Our final question of the day, then, we're going to keep this one really, really short because we've been rambling on for ages. This one comes from Lautaro Carrizo, and he says, which youngster do you think will shine at the World Cup? Brackets under 21, hashtag Sunday Vibes. Hamster, coming to you first. Let's keep it very brief. No ramblage.
Oh, no ramblage. Okay, I think Nigeria have a very good young team. Some exciting talent there, isn't there? However, I've been watching a fair amount of Ligue 1 recently, and I really like Lo Celso from PSG, the young Argentinian. I think they could do with reinforcements in that area. Eva Banega and Mascherano have been sort of permanent fixtures over the last 4 or 5 years, haven't they? As time things were freshened up ever so slightly. I think he's averaging 80 passes per game in Ligue 1 in the very limited amount of time he's been given. He's creating 1.2 chances. He's having 2.5 shots and completing 5.2 tackles and interceptions.
Insane.
These are all-round figures reminiscent of the man he's playing next to in Verratti. So I think he's one to watch, certainly, mate, and a bit of a left field shout.
Yeah, I think the Nigeria mention should probably be expanded upon.
Yeah.
Iheanacho and Iwobi, they've got 28 international appearances between them, but they've got 12 goals.
My boy Ndidi.
They're both so young. Yeah, they've got. Well, they played in a team with Ndidi, with Henry Onyekuru, who obviously has gone to Everton, with Victor Moses. There's loads of talent in that side. So yeah, they haven't got a lot of caps, but they're contributing already. They're both 21, I think and they're just really exciting. They look fearless when they play. They beat Argentina, obviously, in a friendly. I can't wait to see them. I hope they have a great World Cup. And of course, Mbappe, we have to talk about. Mbappe has more goals and more assists than any other under-21 player in Europe's top 5 leagues this season. He's a whirlwind. He could genuinely have like a Pele at his first World Cup breakout.
Does he even count anymore at this point?
I mean, I'd say leave him out. I'm leaving out Ousmane Dembele, so whatever.
Yeah, he's got to count. I'm going to also go a little bit more mainstream, just keep it really short. Timo Werner, I said it before, I think he's going to be the star striker for Germany. Fine, they've got a replacement for Klose. I think he's getting a goal every 111 minutes, something like that. I think it's over 10 goals in the Bundesliga now for him. So I'm going to go for Timo Werner. You're going for Mbappe?
Yeah, sure.
And you're going for Lo Celso. There's a poll up there. Click it if you want to vote. Lo Celso, probably a bit unfair to include him, but...
Sounds like a sauce, doesn't it, Lo Celso?
Yeah,
Can I have some Lo Celso on my...
Cholula.
Sexy. So that's the end of Sunday Vibes. If you want to get your question answered next week, bang it in the comments box below with the hashtag Sunday Vibes, or send us a tweet as well. What is happening on 90+1, Patrick?
We've got 90+1 facts about Zinedine Zidane, I believe. We've got Alexis Sanchez. We've got Ronaldinho in the past. We've got everybody you could possibly want to know 91 things about.
Remember Larson?
No.
EFD, Stat Wars or no?
Yes, Stat Wars.
What's John Babs leaving to?
Guys, Saturday, which would have been yesterday at this point, was Bab's last episode. I'm just gonna words cannot describe, so just go and watch. And bye.
Bye. R.I.P. John Babs.